Welcome to another episode of the Limitless Life podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Smith. And if you have not done so, hit that subscribe button so that you never miss another podcast. And if you love this podcast and want some more tips and tricks on how to improve yourself, go ahead and subscribe to my YouTube channel. There are a ton of instructional videos there. You can find the links down below. However, don't be running too far, folks, because we have a wonderful guest today. And this fella's name is Anthony Kunkel. Anthony, my friend, welcome to the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Now, how is it that what you do impacts the lives of others?
Well, so I've contrived this life. I kind of knew it, I don't know, 14 or 15, that really all I wanted to do was talk about running and be about running and learn about running and spend my time running. And so I kind of built this whole elite athlete life around myself with all the toys and modalities and everything that I would need to make that happen. And very quickly, being kind of, I don't know, bohemian, I guess, I figured, this doesn't add, this doesn't detract from that dream at all if I just shared everything that I had with everybody. And so I have shifted into this position now where I do camps for donation only. Because people have flaked a few times, I started doing, like, this last camp sold out. It was $150 to secure your spot in a resort mountain town for a week with trigger point massage and everyday cold and sauna in the house and elite athletes to train with and poke their brains all. And so it's like, yeah, I mean, we're doing this for peanuts, right? And so that's what it shifted into now, of largely just sharing the kind of lifestyle that's, you know, ended up bearing fruit for myself as an athlete, and it adds a lot to it to then share it with people. And I like to think that it adds value to sponsors. It adds value to me being able to train with people and kind of remind myself of those beginner lessons, for sure, to then share everything that I think works. And I guess the proof's in the pudding. I mean, I've won a few national championships and represented Team USA abroad under the International Olympic Committee. And I've not done that through talent like a lot of people around me. I've done that through a lot of nerdy biohacking and just, like, dedication to the craft and what I call monk mode, where you just figure out what works for you, figure out what your own personal superfoods are and put that on repeat until you can create some very still water, and then you can drop a few extra things in to see what makes the right ripples you're after. And from there, you can really, really tweak and refine what works. And that's what I've done. And sharing that with anyone and everyone is really, really, it's real. It's real in a world of fake stuff.
I like that. I like that. I like that quite a bit. There was a question that popped up earlier earlier, was it this week or this morning? Who knows what time nowadays, but there was something that I read that you were talking about, or that was mentioned in a story, and it was kind of referring to a spiritual aspect to running. Would you be able to elaborate on that concept? Is there the connection? Where is that coming from?
Yeah, I think it's something that we're wired to do. I tend to think that there's the human experience is not all that broad. And I think that would be my assertion, is that, like, we have safety signals, right? We have high arousal, low arousal states. It's like we're really only meant to do these things for a certain select few things. It's really supposed to be like, I eat and therefore, I'm hungry and therefore I eat. It like that should be it. The problem is, you get into the modern world and there's 1,000 different ways to scratch that itch for food, and there's 1,000 different reasons that you're hungry, and you might be hungry just because you're thirsty, and that's a lot of people. It's like, go drink a liter of water with a little sea salt in it and see if you're still hungry. And instead, you're just snacky, you want to eat something. And so I tend to think that there's a very small number of things that we're really after in this world. And I think when you look at most animals, you can see, like, that butterfly is meant to be beautiful. It's meant to flap around. That bee is meant to find the flower. That wolf pack is meant to have synergy and chase things down and feed the whole pack. And then you look at humans and you're like, what are we supposed to do? And I think that's a question worth spending a lifetime finding your own answer for, probably. But I think running is always been an integral part of that as the human experience, and maybe as any kind of animal on the whole is just moving quickly and running in our case. And so for me, it's something that I couldn't possibly find anything more to strip away from the running experience, and it still stands on its own. And with that in mind, I think there's always this kind of intangible, crazy spiritual aspect of it to me. And then I finally did just kind of go off the deep end of, instead of doing a race or doing some stunt for social media or doing some kind of marathon or whatever, getting some quirky world record. Instead, I left from my front door and did a pilgrimage route to the largest pilgrimage site in North America, which is the El Santuario de Chimayo, which is in New Mexico and is all of 250 miles away from me. And that's kind of a culmination of something that, I was mentioning before we got live on here, that I had my premiere for that movie last night. We did end up shooting a documentary on it. And yeah, I mean, it was just weird and crazy transcendental out there. And it was like crushing. It's kind of, since coming from that, not only can I imagine a world where I would just never race again and still kind of be happy running, which is new for me because I kind of run because it's training, and the training is so that I can race and I can hold my own and get a little faster. And that kind of like male brain of like meticulous engineering kind of mind, it added to the subjective kind of more receptive end of myself of, I want to know what it feels like to run that fast, and running fast feels good. And if you could run as hard as you wanted, as fast as you wanted, as far as you wanted, through the wilderness, over the roads, through rivers, then it would be all you ever made time to do. And I can do that on the right day. And so I'm willing to give up a lot of short-term air quotes, because it might take 6 weeks or 8 weeks to build this perfect little house out of sand, and then just admire it for 6 hours on race day before it's all washed away and you clean the slate again and start over again. But there's something, I think, innately spiritual about the idea that I could take a race or leave a race, and with the ability to, the demonstrated to myself, if not to anyone else, demonstrated ability to opt into a pilgrimage route instead of a race, and really give it my all and go out there and create something, and use that as the target goal, when I know people will hear about it, a year or more later when we can drop some media about it, but it's not for anyone else other than me. It's just out there to learn something that maybe people need to know, and I can save them from having to run 250 miles themselves. But when that ended up bearing more fruit than racing and bringing me more contentment than racing, it was kind of crushing in the best possible way, or disillusioning in the best possible way.
I think disillusioning was actually a good word, because I was just about to make a note on that, because I thought that was so cool, where it almost feels like, or seems like, oftentimes, if there's not the reason as to why, then there's not, or the purpose or the reason as to, I want to accomplish X, it's really difficult to just do a thing out of purpose.
Mm-hmm.
There's usually an end goal or an end point or a specific like accolade that we're trying to accomplish. But
Yeah, big time.
I think something that's beautiful about a pilgrimage is that there's no accolades, but the accolades that present themselves within yourself as you're beating the shit out of yourself.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
interesting.
man. And I think the other aspect of that is, when I won my first national championship, it was like, well, maybe the harder you work, the luckier you get. Whoever said that, like, maybe that's the case, but it's like, the second I opened up the car door in the morning and that hot, wet, somehow October air in Pennsylvania flooded into the car, 85 degrees and 100% humidity, despite the fall colors, I was like, that's it. I just won the 50-mile national champs. I mean, it's gravel, it's 5,000 feet of gain, it's smooth enough roads that you can really open it up, and it's hot. It's like the odds are so stacked in my favor that, like, I just won this race and I'm not even at the start line yet. And so it was very easy. The swagger's nice. That's all great and it sounds good. But like, it's very easy to then write that off because, I got lucky. Like I got lucky. But then 6 months later, it was 5 degrees Fahrenheit. It was perfectly flat, and it was 25K loops instead of one big massive loop through the mountains. And I won the 100K champs then. And so it's like, okay, how many people do I have to beat before I'm going to feel like I'm the real deal here? You know, how many wins is it going to take to get rid of imposter syndrome here? And I think the answer is that there is no number on there. It would never be satisfied. I would never be satisfied. It would never lead anywhere. And so some of the pilgrimage to me was disillusionment with the dreams of a child, right? I mean, who doesn't have like Olympic dreams? And you see like International Olympic Committee and USA on my chest and all this stuff, and it's like that's that was the dream. Like that's not something that you normally have to think. And then what? That's like that is the thing, and it was empty for me. It brought me nothing, and so I had to pivot and figure out what this meant, or I had to step away from the sport. And I'm ready to step away from the sport when I need to. When my body says enough is enough, I don't plan on running forever. I'm here for a good time, not a long time, and that might be a decade, that might be 2 decades, this might be the last year, and I'm earnestly okay with that. I mean, from the bottom of my heart, I'm okay with that. But yeah, I mean, what do you do with that when you get everything that you were after, and maybe more than you thought you had talent for, and then it's empty? Then what do you do? You either have an existential crisis, I don't know, buy a sports car, or like, I don't know, become a professional, maybe like work a job, God forbid. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what else I would do. And so I think experiencing something like this, that's a new way to put the things that I like about running, that kind of spiritual self-exploration and shared space with other people, and to put that as the forefront, not just, okay, I get to enjoy all these secondary things as long as I'm still winning the race, because winning the race is what's going to make it financially viable for me, so that I can keep doing the weird stuff. What if I just put the weird stuff in the forefront and then just hoped that it's weird, right? Anytime you're scarce, there's value to that, and people will see that. And I really believe that what I have, it's not that it's special or even hard to find, but I'm a visible enough person, and I'm willing to share it openly enough. And people in the modern world are deficient in what I have. And so if that means that I can bottle this and distribute this to the world, then I feel like a human obligation to do that.
There's a sense of fulfillment and joy in the practice or the sharing of your venture, of your
Yeah.
creative act, which is
Yeah.
running.
Yeah.
That's very cool, man. I love that. There was a couple of weeks ago, I started doing, it's going to sound really weird, but basically lifting up boulders, like rocks
Hmm.
that are on the ground. And one of the weeks that we were there,
Dude, that's not weird at all. I thought you were going to say
okay.
like semen retention or something. I was like, yeah, let's get weird.
Yeah.
I was like, you started
Yeah.
microdosing mushrooms. All right, let's get weird.
Oh man. Yeah, that's a legit good one. But something that was cool was we were lifting some rocks, and there was an endurance event that was going on. There was running. And the thing that was cool in that moment was the thought of and I completely agree, where there's the common denominators across all human beings, where we like to pretend that we're special and unique, and
Mhm.
but I don't think realistically we truly are. We have a lot more in common than we like to give ourselves credit for. And when it was lifting up these boulders and watching people run, I was like, wow, this is like I forget what it is. Oh, it's the Taoist idea of pu. And
Mhm.
when things are too crazy, just go back down to baseline level. And so
Yep.
being able to experience just lifting up these boulders just from the ground, and it was freaking tough, to watching people running. And I did a run the week before as well, and then lifted boulders.
Yeah.
Doing those two things, it's like you can't get any more baseline than
Mhm.
what we were just capable of doing. It's people running and people lifting, and then it's just repeat. Survival, go eat, come back, repeat. And I think going back to the baseline of those activities is very powerful for the development of character, because both of those are very difficult. Both of those are tough, but they're so ingrained in our being. To me, it
Yep.
honestly feels like time travel.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think when you do get down to that raw, you do strip away the modern desire. Like, it's a beautiful desire to want to be special and want to contribute something special, and there is something that you can do, that you can offer, that probably no one else can offer exactly like you do. And so you are on the hook to humanity. Every time you eat calories from this planet, like you are on the hook to deliver something to someone outside of yourself. But you're not special, and that's okay. Like, And that's kind of, my camp last month. It was the first camp that I've put on. And I do these camps like every other month. The next one's Christmas in July. It's like the 7th to the 14th. And it's probably already, I don't, it'll sell out, and Project Mayhem, which is in May, that's a Fight Club reference. Project Mayhem. It's like
Yeah.
classic. Like, you're not a special fucking snowflake, It's like I think there's something to, especially longer term, people, again, it's like, we starving artist athletes, what are we lacking here? Think energy exchange. It's like, we're living on $8,000 a year or $10,000 a year because this is the dream. Like, and this is the dream, and that's all there is to it. And you're not broke or rich. You're doing something different that doesn't necessarily involve money changing hands. But it's like, to cover, chiropractic work and trigger point massage and a little chunk of land that we're going to need. It's like, what the world is deficient in, the people that could write us a check for $1,000 for a week and not miss it, not have it be a catastrophe for them. Those are the people that probably need to hear a little bit more of, my lady friend likes to say, dig a ditch and then fill it in because you're not special. It's like, because you
I
don't
like
matter.
that.
And there's something so, it's liberating. It's not nihilistic. It's liberating to realize that you're gonna die. You're gonna be swallowed up into nothing, and the worms won't even remember you fondly, and that's okay. that shouldn't stop you from screaming and letting that scream just get eaten by the mountains, because that's the fragileness of it is what makes it beautiful. But I forget who said what perfection is achieved not when you have nothing more to add but nothing more to take away. I think it was a French. I seem to remember a French name in there somewhere, but yeah, kind of a cool idea. And I think that's what you and I are describing. Of that's really where you start getting places, is when there's nothing left to take away. You kind of lose you lose the bandwidth to explain more of your persona. It's like, yeah, but I'm funny. It's like, dude, pick up the fucking rock. Like, no one can, oh my God, but look how nice my shoes are. It's like, cool. Like, you finished 60 seconds after I did. So for most of human history, you would be food and I would be eating you. And that's just what it is. And it's like, that's okay. We've gamified it now. We can be friends now. I can feed you. Thankfully, you can coast in off my coattails just like I could off yours. We're social critters. But yeah, I think you can't talk about that and really articulate what we're doing out there and not get super weird woo woo crunchy about it. Like, you just have to, unless there's plenty of people, especially in the running world, where it doesn't take athleticism. It takes freakish talent. You can just endure straight linear movement. There's not a whole lot of room for finesse. And that's nice, but it allows some people who are so talented to then not have crazy profound experiences, which I think is their loss. That's kind of the ultimate tragedy, is to be too talented to smell the roses.
I like that. That to be too talented yeah, I like that. Dude, you got away with words. Like, how you're describing things, I'm just visualizing it. I'm like, fuck, that's really good. I like how you said, what was that? It was screaming or let the mountains die out your scream, or that was
Oh
pretty
man,
sweet too.
That was something that came up in the premiere, because it came up in the experience
Beautiful.
of out there. I had this crazy, it wasn't defeatist or nihilistic or anything. Like, I just
Yeah.
like screaming out into the wilderness, and I didn't even listen for an echo. Like, I just wanted, I don't even know what I wanted. The universe to just see that I'm a flash in the pan, but it's a flash nonetheless. And it's like, in a world where even a flash isn't nothing, and plenty of things have no substance to them, I was okay with that. And it really felt, it's not the first time in my life, certainly, but it's the most vivid time in my life up to this point, where I've been like, that's it. Like, I can die right now and I have no ill feelings about that whatsoever. It's going to happen eventually. And it's been real. I don't know what I believe is going to happen afterwards, but I'm totally at peace in this moment. And there was something to that, man.
I think that's freaking sweet, dude. And technically speaking, we've already experienced what it's like to afterwards. Before we
Yeah.
even existed, we were already there. That's so cool, man. So what I guess you mentioned that you accomplished your accolades. Was the purpose of the pilgrimage to to find something? What was the purpose of the pilgrimage when you wanted to explore all of it? I'm kind of curious about that.
I mean, maybe some of it was a little rock bottom of like,
Mm,
okay, now what? And like, well, I don't know what, I don't know where this is supposed to go, but I know how to connect the next few dots, right? And I don't know what the picture is going to look like when I connect all the dots together, but I'm just going to keep connecting. I'm just going to connect dot 30, dot 29. It was on my 30th birthday. I'm just going to connect dot 29 to dot 30. And I'm positive I know how to do that. And I don't need to know even what direction dot 31 is in. I'm just going to connect these two dots and lose myself to that. And so part of it was definitely that of, I mean, what the hell else am I going to do? So it was something that was on my radar for a few years when I realized that it's a massive pilgrimage site and that it's not far from home. So if you, again, like social critters, if I'm out of faith, I might as well put faith in stuff that other people put faith in. And not to get too like metacognition here, but it's like
now,
it,
man, go for it.
even if I don't have faith in this, like it's holy dirt at Chimayo. It'll heal anything. You walk into this room, and on the next room, there's a row stacked with crutches and wheelchairs and baby shoes that have been prayed for, and like all this stuff where people crutch in and walk out. And I don't need to believe in what that person believed in to believe in that person's faith. Like I don't it doesn't have to be true to me. I can believe that if 40,000 people on Good Friday put energy on this dirt, then that is something, even if there was nothing to it to begin with. And so I just figured what better timing than spring in the San Juan Mountains to take off and go do that. And I told a media guy, hey, I'll give you every dime I have. It'll be like $100 a day. You can crew me, you can shoot some stuff, and maybe we'll make something out of this. And now here we are, a year and change later with the premiere last night. But yeah, so it's hard not to have that on the top of my head. I'm not sure. I definitely went into it open and receptive, and I don't even think confident that I was going to get out anything crazy out of it, but it gave me more than I could have possibly hoped for anyway. I don't know if you read Green Lights, McConaughey's
With
book.
McConaughey? Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't help but identify with that more than I've identified with any celebrity story of like, I don't even want to ask for things out of the universe because I've always gotten more than I could have possibly asked for anyway. It's like, I don't know if that's the ultimate smug place of privilege or if that's just an acknowledgement that it's worked out more times than not. And I think it's probably a little bit of both. But man, I went into it not even knowing what to ask for and getting more than I could have possibly had the creativity to come up with.
That's pretty cool. The closest thing to a pilgrimage I've ever had was in 2016. I did the Las Vegas World's Toughest Mudder. And it was a
Ooh,
24-hour race with military obstacle. It was freaking sweet.
you know the
And
name DJ Fox?
not off the top of my head, maybe if I seen
He
him.
was he was third. He was third in Laughlin, in what was that last, not this past fall, but the previous fall,
Hmm,
and he won World's Toughest Mudder last year, and he's my primary training buddy. He lives with me.
nice. Dude,
Yeah.
that's sweet. I forget who won. I forget who the fella that won the one that I went to. I think it was something like 15 miles that they crushed out, something like that. I'm not 100% sure though. But when I went to the World's Toughest Mudder, my buddy Sean, who loves to suffer. He's running and he's not built like a runner by any means. 6'3", 200 some pounds, but just like
Mhm.
trucks. And at that point in my lifetime or that season of my life, I was at a point where it was just kind of similar, where it was directionless, purposeless, just being an asshole to myself, perpetuating pain into the present, just
Mhm.
repeat over and over and over again. And
Yep.
thankfully he always he said to me basically weekly, dude, do the toughest mutter, do the toughest mutter. And then it wasn't until obviously when we try to ask for advice, we just put it onto a Facebook post, it just makes the most sense rather than asking a human being. So I just put it out there. I'm like, I'm really fucking paying my ass right now. What can I do? Or any recommendations, whatever. And he's like, World's Toughest Mudder. I'm like, fuck it. Let's go. And I've done
Yeah.
Tough Mudders before, but that was my first one to that duration.
Yeah.
And I found peace in the pain is the way I like to reference it. Is there was a sense of peace where it was just out in the desert, it was pitch black, and it was one ominous because I thought I was going to probably fall at some point, and I didn't, thankfully. But there was a not a profound, but there was a reflection of just how ridiculous the repeat thoughts were just going over and over and over again. It was just absolutely shenanigans where the pain brought out a purpose that I did not anticipate. And after the race, it was, well, we were in Vegas. So after a little bit of like, you know, a little shenanigans, of course,
Yeah.
I found that the purpose went, I guess it comes down to what we were chatting about and what we started with, where we're stripping everything down. And then you just get to
Yeah.
see what the not absolutes, but the minimum viable, like the real core important aspects of being is.
Yeah. Yeah. In physiology, you have the functional unit, right? It's like the smallest, you go down from a muscle down to a muscle fiber, and the smallest thing that still contracts is your functional unit, your myofibril in that case, is like your functional unit of the muscle. If you strip it down any further than that, you stop doing what muscle tissue does. And we're talking about the same thing with you as a human, right? It's like the functional unit of your humanity. It's like what is it doing, and at what level can you not strip it away any further?
You keep on pushing it to that point. I'm reading a book, The Art of Resilience by Ross Edgley.
Yeah, I've
I'm
been through it.
I just started it like yesterday. I'm probably 25% through it already. That's a pretty cool book. And where is it that you draw resilience from? Or do you even need to draw resilience since you're so at home in running?
Yeah, I don't know that I do. I don't like
Cool.
the like I don't like the masculine force against force. Like I think there's value to having that the mission, this kind of like, divine masculine of like, this is what I'm gonna do. These are the X's and O's. This is like how it's gonna happen. This is the time standard. This is what it is. But in the end of the day, like that's not going to drive me. I'm not going to push any harder to beat you over any event
Mhm.
than I would push if I was in a dark room by myself, blindfolded, like with no one watching, like with not even myself watching, right? Like I am there's something so overwhelmingly good that it distracts me from the machismo bullshit of like of like whatever, putting my will over things. And so yeah, I don't identify with or strive towards any kind of grit or anything like that. I think a lot of people are quick to think, especially in like the David Goggins era, that
Mm.
like anybody running that far is doing it just through harnessing whatever, some kind of like darkness or self-hatred or lack. And I'm much more in the, I don't know, like law of attraction maybe, like, but you don't, I think that's where people get it twisted, is like you don't attract from a place of lack. You don't attract something that you need. That's not how it works. You attract what you are or what you ought to be, not what you need. And so I think, yeah, that's the place that I try to come from, and that's the place that I default to. I mean, I just ran a 108 half marathon, which is teetering on respectable. Like I've gotten pretty fast this past. That's 5:15 a mile or 5:14 a mile, and like I can Olympic trials qualify in the marathon in the next, if not in the next 2 weeks at Grandma's Marathon, then in the next, or whatever that is, 9 days, then in the next few months, it's possible if on the right day. And from the raw sensation, and I'm pretty good about like just turning the brain off and just flowing. Like I can just disappear into effort, and I'll throw on the stride. I'm big on the power meter, STRYD stride, and I can just regulate power and keep it at 310 watts or whatever it is. That's uphill, downhill, flat ground, whatever it is, and just maintain it there. And once I click into that power output, I can just click there and just poof, I'm gone. I can disappear into the effort and just kind of let it come to me. And out of the body, like it was kind of like the bodily sensation was there, and then it was kind of the picture was labeled onto that sensation, as opposed to most of the time we say, I'm sad, this is what sad feels like. This was like I had the visceral realization that I might never run faster than this. You know, it's like I'm 31 years old, and I at some point you slow down, and that point is somewhere around now ish, at least over the 1 hour or shorter races. And so it was such a profound experience as I pushed a little harder and a little harder. And for the first time in a long time, I was pulling it up and backing up and stumbling across the finish line because I was so gassed. I mean, I couldn't even hold it together for the finish line camera of the last 100 meters finishing strong or whatever. I had already done everything that I possibly could. And that was as peaceful as it could possibly be in all of that. And that's so much more driving. I don't think I could drive that hard for anything other than peace and curiosity, right? I mean, you don't, if you want to do something you've never done, you don't know what it feels like. And you should remind yourself that as often as you possibly can if you're trying to do anything with your body ever, whether that's elite performance or losing a few pounds. It's like, if you don't know what it feels like, then why are you putting all this, why are you thinking like, why are you putting all this baggage and labeling and expectation on it? You don't even know what it feels like. It's something new for you. And that should be exciting because it means you don't have to sit there and wallow in your own bullshit anymore because it's going to be something new. But it also means you got to be willing to let go of what you think you know about whatever it is you're chasing. So man, curiosity will take me places that I don't think grit ever would. And I think I've proven that to some extent, and I think I'm just getting started. I mean, I know I saw someone's keeping the 100K world record warm for me, and I'm happy about that. But I, as soon as I'm done with this marathon trials, I would like to mix it up a little bit with the obstacle course racing again because I like that world, and that puts my athleticism on display a little better. I'm certainly more talented in that world, and then I would like to target the 50-mile world record with some level of focus and severity. And it sounds like there's 3 or 4 options for that in the fall and the spring. So we'll see.
I like that. I like that you have an emphasis on curiosity. I remind myself my kind of mantra when it comes to trying out new things or venturing into little side quests, as I like to say,
Yeah.
is curiosity curates creativity. And we find the most creativity in times of discomfort, because discomfort is what gets that creativity going. Everything that we have, or of anything that we have created, it started with curiosity, and that curiosity came from a sense of lack. So shoes, for example, we created shoes to create more comfort in our environment because we were uncomfortable. So we had to develop a little bit of creativity in there. And that's cool. I like the sense of creativity rather than a sense of grit. I big time, because I don't find myself to be a very like gritty person. I can work, but I'm a lot more zen. I'm a lot more chill, and
Yep.
I could do a pretty decent like David Goggins voice if I'm at the gym chatting with my buddy Jesse.
Uh-huh.
But for the most part, I find that there has been a lot more. I find that there's a lot more smooth progress when there is the curiosity rather than the sense of scarcity or the coming from a place of pain. I've found that there's never been a positive point where there's been resentment. When I've ventured into something with from a place of infatuation, not resentment, that's been the sweet spot for sure. That's craziness, man.
Yeah, it's a superpower, big time.
Right?
I mean, you don't. I like to profess at least that you can't beat somebody that's smiling. Like you certainly can't grit your teeth and outperform someone who's actively enjoying what they're doing. And I have a lot of, I have interesting ideas relative to meatheads, right? Or I have meathead ideas relative to hippie artists, maybe. So it's like I have a good cross section of humans in my life, and that idea of like you're not going to beat someone who's still having so much fun is applicable to anything. I think you the second you find that tension to try to like push through something, you're kind of at odds with yourself or with whatever. I know I'm a huge Artist Way fan, Julia Cameron. If you haven't been through it, you should. It'll probably take you the rest of your life. You're an introspective enough guy that when I went into that one full man mode, like I have no life, I can do a week every 3 days, like a week of her prescription or whatever. I'll finish this 12 weeks in a month or whatever, and it'll be great. And then next thing I know, it's been like 3 years and I'm on like week 9 or something. I was like, this is great.
That's pretty
And
cool.
she's big on you take care of the quality. You take care of the quantity. God takes care of the quality. And that's classic Julia Cameron of just, or in my words, I say, when in doubt, put the fuck out. Like when in doubt, just do more. Run more miles, like do more saunas, do more. Just find the things that work. If there's any kind of doubt, just burn that doubt off with doing something, because that's easier than existential dread, at least.
Yeah. I like that. There's a saying by a fellow named Craig Ballantyne where he says, action beats anxiety, work beats worry, and motion beats meditation.
Nice.
So I always try to refer to that too. Oh, that's freaking sweet, man. I like it because I'm not a long distance runner, but I understand. I think or actually no, this is a better question. Is there a philosophy or what has inspired you in your way of thinking outside of running? How has there been a layering to get you to this point, I suppose?
I mean, part of it is the necessity, like what you were talking about. If you already had a working pair of shoes, you might not create the best pair of shoes you possibly could create if you had no box to play in, right? If you could just think outside the box. And I think wanting to know what it feels like to actively, like subjectively, emotionally, not accolade wise, but to compete, just to feel like I'm racing over a 50K. That was the driving factor for me at 18, is just like, what would it feel like to just feel like I could put the moves on and like surge up the hill, or feel like I'm out front and I'm running scared, and to run scared for 20 miles or more with like, oh my God, there's 1,200 people behind me at the Leadville 100 and they're all trying to swallow me up. And it's like one person's going to finish in front. It's like, that's given me a necessity then, without a whole lot of talent. That's given me a necessity then to really let my whole humanity kind of integrate into this simple act of running. And so from there, then we can get, it's like me as a social critter, and my, the friend group that I keep, and the people that can look at me and say, dude, you're a fucking monster. Like, you can crush, you can do anything that you want to do. And really, really, they mean it and they see it. This is not people being nice. And then to do that for them, that creates synergy. That's kind of this catalyst. And then to do that with the curiosity, with the supplementation and the training and the books and all, to integrate all this stuff into one thing. I'm just a cross section of all that stuff, I think. And then every time you expose yourself to something new, I have a pretty tight friend at this point that I would definitely fight somebody over.
Nice.
You probably know Hunter McIntyre. He's a hell of a human specimen and a great human being. Yep. And a great human being. And me and him have a lot of fun, like over a dinner table, that we couldn't have over a podcast, because it's like, we just have to talk over each other and like really get feisty. And like, we tried to podcast together on his Morning Wood project, but like, we just can't. Like, I'm going to be nice to you. It's your show. I'm not going to like interrupt you and get too crazy and contrarian here. But in person, it's great, because what you see is we've both kind of ended up at the top of our games here. And he does it through this kind of what I would consider like slash and burn, get rid of everything until there's one thing that can possibly grow in this field. And then you plant that field of corn with fucking pesticides and anything you need to make sure that it's only corn come hell or high water coming out of there. And it's like across the street with one of those no spray organic farm signs is like my mentality, which is like, it's a food forest, right? Like, eat your mango, drop the mango on the ground. If it grows, it was meant to grow. If it wasn't meant to grow, then it'll starve there. I mean, I live in the high desert, so not a lot of mangoes growing around here. Great example. So it's like, but having the idea of like your champion's mindset, you either have to let nothing in because you have to be positive that you're a world champ, that it's going to happen, that you can do anything that you want, or you have to be 100% permeable to, anything that will help me, Sword of Gryffindor for Harry Potter nerds, right?
Nice,
like make it a little nerdy for those. And it's like, I will only take in the only thing that's going to permeate my consciousness is stuff that's going to help me. And so with that in mind, I am just going to bathe. I'm just going to diversify my mental microbiome here as much as I possibly can, because there's nothing that's going to give me dysbiosis. Everything is only going to help. I've built up so much healthy growth here, that in this mental food forest here, that anything that isn't helpful or isn't meant to be there is going to get choked out for lack of nutrients or lack of mental energy, or however far we want to take the metaphor here. And yeah, I think there's something so beautiful in that you can come at it with completely different ideas, and you kind of end up at the same place of like, these are world championship thoughts. And it's like, yeah, that's a vibe. And so I've had a necessity to kind of be totally open to everything, because I've never had it. It's never come effortlessly for me. So I'm willing to just do everything that I have to do.
And then by having that openness, well, yeah, then you're putting the input in, then there's going to be more output. And with that output, there's going to be a lot more, it's reciprocation.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially mixing it up in different worlds. It's like, I hopped into the obstacle course racing world last season, and I had a really solid outpouring of what I think was world-class advice of people that were like trying to save me stuff. And, some of it, it's like I live with some OCR bros, and they were like, that's garbage advice. That's shit. You don't need to worry about what that person said. And I said, well, you know what? They might have spent 6 months to make one stupid bonehead mistake, and this is how they fix that mistake. And like, who am I with zero wisdom in this game to say that that's not really wise? Like, maybe you guys have awesome pushing strength and don't need to do push-ups to prep for bear crawls. You can just do bear crawls. Maybe I don't. Maybe that person didn't. Who knows? So maintaining that level of openness is, yeah, it's upward spiraling with the curiosity, right? Because there's so much we don't know. And I think it helps that I got an early start. I mean, I got my 10,000 hours plus worried about exercise physiology and human performance from a very early age. And I think that let me get to the point very quickly of not knowing anything. I like to joke that I priced myself out of my own coaching program, because I used to coach people, and now I'm like, who the hell am I to tell anybody anything about anything ever? Because it's like, there is so much to know. And it's like, while I'm positive that I know more than damn near anybody, I'm also positive it's basically zero. You know more, coach yourself, read my stuff. I'll give you all my thoughts, but like, you gotta be at the helm here. I can only advise you.
That's so great. Yeah, that's awesome. I think the something that resonates with me, that the way that you speak about it, is these it's almost like skill acquisition, or how I like to put it, if I gamify it, is you're leveling up your skill tree. So by having that permeability and allowing things to come in, you're expanding your skill tree rather than working on the one skill. And I was really big in video games. So one thing, well, not really big in video games, mostly just really big into Skyrim. And I was more of the,
Nice.
I will, the first time I played, before my brother deleted everything after thousands of hours, not thousands, but a couple solid chunks, I was more of a specialist. And then afterwards, I just wanted to expand my skill tree. I didn't really go into the magic too much, but what I recognized is, or the lesson that I learned from video games that I apply to life, is
Nice.
every once in a while, there's going to be a skill, or an opportunity to take on a skill similar to what you're saying, where it may be someone else, it didn't work for someone else, but it could absolutely work for the self. And I think that anytime that there's an opportunity to get 1% or an 1% improvement, even if it's possible, it's higher than 0%. So if it can improve a little bit, that could be leaps and bounds as that compounds as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I think the cool part is it's easier to level up those skills when there's lower hanging fruit. How even something so simple as a marathon, it's like, you're dealing with metabolic efficiency. If we were to think in terms of like a game, right? You have a certain level of metabolic efficiency, but thankfully, as an organism, all of your stuff ends up going into basically the same pot. I mean, you have to be really, really specialized for your strength gains to harm your endurance, or your endurance gains to harm anything else. It's unlike a video game character, where it's like, you can only add so much strength before like your dexterity is horrible or something like that. It's like, as a human organism, until you're muscle bound, like visibly muscle bound, it's like, you're probably going to crush. It's probably only going to help you. And I think there's something to that diversity of if I only have so many hours or so much adaptive energy or so much creative energy, as I like to think of it, to kind of, you know, turn discomfort into joy. That's the creative part that it takes to enjoy a set of honest deadlifts or a set of mile repeats or a hard long tempo run. It's not, it doesn't happen on accident, right? It takes a little bit of force and or a little bit of intent. And I think what you find is that you have lower hanging fruit in certain areas. You know, if your metabolic efficiency is through the roof and your muscular endurance is not as good as your aerobic efficiency, then it's like you're better off spending that creative energy and the muscular endurance end instead of 1% more on your aerobic endurance that's already strong, you know, 98% and 99% maxed. Instead, you could get from 70 to 80% with the same effort in some other realm, which you might find is on race day or on competition day of any kind, or on your wedding day or whatever it is that normal people peak for, beach season for all it matters. It's all the same. So yeah, periodizing that lower hanging fruit is fun. Plus it's like sexier because you can see the gains faster as opposed to just beating your head against the same thing and trusting that in 6 weeks or 6 months that you'll be 1% better. That takes a little bit of faith, or I guess a lot of faith or a little bit of grit, maybe.
Yeah, fair enough. Ooh, well said. Ow. I'm excited to listen back to this podcast, man. This is good. That's sweet. Are you familiar with Rick Rubin,
I don't think so.
the author? Or not the author. He's worked with the Beastie Boys. Basically anyone who is crushed it in music has worked with Rick Rubin at some point, but he wrote a book. And in my opinion, I think that his book would be one of the next kind of points of he's going to be a philosophy. It's going to be a philosopher book, but it's called The Creative Act, the Creative Act, the Art of Being. And this, I think that you would quite enjoy how
That
he
sounds excellent.
dives into.
You'll have to like message me that after we get off here. That sounds great.
Oh man, like there's a very like I have a huge emphasis on creativity. So what you're saying just resonates so strongly with me to the point of it's really cool. It's quite uncanny. It's like, oh, I've never heard another not tangent, but heard more about
they're all tangents.
Creativity. Yeah, exactly.
You encouraged it before we got on, and I'm like, I'm just gonna riff. I'm gonna forget what the question was and just keep on talking.
Yeah, I dig it. I love it, man. That's so cool. But I think you would definitely like that book. I'll definitely send it your way. Where did I want to go with that one? That was one point that I thought was kind of like pretty important. But now I'm kind of curious as well because you mentioned a lot of the biohacking stuff. And is there what have you found to be what have you found to be the oddest but the most impactful biohack, I suppose? Or what is something that you have utilized that it seems odd but has had the biggest bang for your buck per se?
It's open-ended. It's a good one. There's a lot of real quirky stuff that I've played with that I was positive was snake oil going into it and has ended up conclusively, undeniably helping me with performance, certainly on the supplementation end of things. But I think since people hear about it regularly and it can't be all that weird because it's easy to discuss, but I think the like integrating the biggest forces we have access to. So like you and me talking primal, like really stuff that you can't possibly strip away with. It's like if you can hop into that slipstream, you can tap into like much deeper power than just like your human body. And I think something that I've been, I don't know, one more thing where it's like I'm not like Kim Anami or somebody who's like professing crazy. Her podcast is Orgasmic Enlightenment. I can't possibly recommend it enough. If you ever seen a woman with a like yoni egg, Ben Wa ball, like picking up a surfboard with her vagina, it's Kim Anami. She's gone viral a few times for like picking up garden gnomes and stuff. And yeah, so she's got this whole thing about like she's professing ancient Taoist ideas for the modern world, basically, as I see it. And I like to think she would agree with that label. But I'm not someone that's in the position to whatever profess all that much about like sacred sexuality, because people do study this for years and years and years. But it's been very cool to realize that the points in my life where I'm like microdosing and having the best runs and having the best sex and really having the best, you know, sauna sessions and cold sessions, and like really looking for things that make you really, really, really feel things, and then leaning into that instead of throwing it away, I think is a very interesting idea of like, I'm hot, I got to get out of this sauna. Like I'm so cold, I'm so uncomfortable, everything is screaming, I got to get out of this ice bath. And it's like, what if you just had a little bit of curiosity and said, okay, maybe let's not throw this away. So far, I've survived 100% of my life. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm not actually going to die right here, at least intellectually. Like, what if, you know, I have a perfect score so far. Like, what if? And I think leaning that same kind of curiosity into what ends up being like sacred sexuality has really paid some dividends for me. Like I did I think it was probably some of the more controversial stuff that I've posted about. I had this nice like 90-day semen retention, and like was occasionally posting like, I'm on day 63, you guys. It's like whatever it was. And of course, everybody wants to engage with that all of a sudden. Like people that I thought would be way too prude, like people are like, all right, dude, what the hell are you doing? And people are reaching out like, I'm going to do my own. And then like 24 hours later, they're like, I ruined it. I was like, yeah, dude, it's fucking hard. Like, and I think
Unintended.
the same thing goes for like during the act of like, you get all hyped up and you want to just like run one fast mile and then be done with your workout. And I think we do the same thing with everything else. We want, like, when it gets loud, we want to respond with more loudness instead of like being with what is and kind of attuning to that same level of amplitude there. And I think the like whole breathing sexual energy around, or like long semen retentions and that sort of thing, I think is probably the weirdest thing that I would absolutely bet has helped things, certainly, you know, humanity and my own running. And it's cool to be able to kind of like think in terms of how much pleasure can you make space for, instead of like quickly sneezing it away. what if you can just what if you can just allow this to kind of like flow around and be with your body there. So I think that goes for damn near everything, because I think we've all found that it's like, I'll just go a little heavier and do a few less reps, because like this freaking whatever, like this volume program of 10 by 10 is killing me. It's like, what, I'll just do a 5-3-1 because it's like sexier or something. And I think there's something to just being with what is, and trying to make as much space in yourself for pleasure as you possibly can, because I think people come in very harshly, and if you come in looking for something aggressive and harsh and forceful, you're going to find it. You're going to turn your eyes onto that, because the world's infinite. So there's an infinite number of possibilities to see. So if you turn your eyes on instead to like, man, it feels so pleasurable through, you know, my hips and my spine, and breathing through my balls and like down the back of my body. And it's like, that's applicable to anything that I'm doing, right? That's applicable to just kind of integrating all my humanity into here. And then it's fun, because then you can kind of like translate, you know, a 90-minute session of any kind into a 90-minute session of any other kind, and breathe around this same kind of pleasure, and start seeing your body as something that can bring you as much pleasure as you can possibly hold space for. So I think that gets pretty weird pretty quickly. I'm trying to kind of like not get too vulgar, although that's definitely obviously like around the house here. Like I'll have a chat with you in the sauna, and we can make some gestures to it. But yeah,
Yeah.
man, I think there's something to that, and I know there's something to that because people are averse to it. It's kind of like the
Ah,
argument for how you know someone's a genius, and it's, if enough people hate them, they're probably onto something, because it's like the crazy homeless person on the corner, you don't feel the need to hate on that person. He's just a crazy homeless person. But the person who's like out there professing things that you're like, man, who the fuck is that guy to like say these things that I don't agree with? It's like, he's probably onto something if it bothers you. Otherwise it wouldn't bother you. And I think
totally.
that's something that I can tell it gets too much of a response out of people to not have some validity there. But I don't know. We'll see where that goes. Put that thought out there.
That's a neat thought though. it's kind of interesting. Do you think it, or let me double check on this one just because I want, are you also like saying like uh modulating modulating pleasure to a certain degree, so it's not like you're not going for more, it's, oh, this is solid, but also modulating it where it's a solid chunk of, where it's consistent.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the time the body kind of defaults to that anyway.
Hmm.
And there's this idea that I've enjoyed conflating of like free fall, where like you can run as hard as you want, as long as you want, and everything's great. And I think the same thing, for me, that might take 4 days of like long, big, massive training days before like I just don't care. I mean, I just there it doesn't even register that I'm tired anymore. It's just like I can just it's just the cost of doing business. It's totally fine. With like with like an extended sex session, it's somewhere around like 40-ish minutes or so, where it's like all of a sudden like I can just go as hard as I possibly want, as long as I possibly want. It's like it's the same thing with running, and it's the same sensation in the body of like, okay, now we've kind of plateaued. This is as much as we can possibly hold space for. And now we just have the benefit that we've like broken through here of we can dive as deeply into this experience as possible. But I find that very rarely do you have it's because you're like pushing that, you're like it is a conscious thing. I don't think it's that I'm modulating it to maintain that level. It's that you get antsy and you push it higher, and you gain tension to it. And like when I'm doing my cold exposure, I people say, oh, it's like Wim Hof, and I'm like, I'll take one deep breath in and exhale and drop my body into cold water. It's like, if you want to call that Wim Hof, then okay, like it's a colloquialism, isn't it, now, for anything that has to do with the cold. But in reality, like I'm bringing the whole nervous system down. I'm not upping to like reach the level of noise that my head might want to make. I'm like attuning with that to kind of meet in the middle. And I think doing that more with your body for any kind of endurance event, wink, wink, like I think I think there's value in that, because very rarely, if you receive, very rarely does it amplify and amplify and amplify. It's most people just like chasing and chasing and chasing that, and kind of like stoking it. And if instead you're moving things around into your entire being, I think there's a lot more space in there. Hopefully.
I would imagine so. Oh man, that's so well put. One day I'll come down for a training day. I'll get my
Dude,
ass whooped, but I'll
Christmas in
definitely,
July.
yeah. Actually, yeah, can you touch on that a little bit more? I definitely want to hear a little bit more about what you have going on for the camp, actually.
Yeah, so the next one, it will fill up. I think I'm asking, I don't know, $200, maybe 250, just because like I want to make sure that the people that want to be here can be here, and people that have big boy jobs, big girl jobs can throw a few extra bucks in there if they want. There won't be any pressure for that. Really, the money's just to make sure that people show up once they tell me they want to bunk.
Mhm.
And my front room in the trailer is two triple bunk beds and an ottoman that pulls out into another one. And so full would, I guess formally full would be 5 to 7. And it's just a chance for me to kind of microcosm what I was getting out of, I've built this whole athletic life, and to put that into a week of like, here's my practitioner. He is the best trigger point guy you will ever have put hands on you. Here's my holotropic breath worker. You're going to breathe a little quicker. You will probably trip balls one way or the other. And we are going to be a crying mess of humanity when we're all done. And it's going to be fucking great. And it's like, I book all this stuff and just kind of leverage the fact that I'm somebody to have the best of the best of the best, so that people can come here and be at the perfect altitude, with the perfect sauna space set up with the infrared sauna in the house, and the red mill, the creation of my own design with an infrared sauna treadmill, and like use all the sponsor swag, and be able to really like play with all of these things, in battle test all the things that I endorse and that I'm convinced work and have brought me success. And so it's a way for people to kind of slip into that. And then, yeah, to the extent that we can, we offer everybody a ride from the airport. I host everybody right here, all included in that cost. That covers your body work, that covers your breath work, that covers a little day adventures. And then, yeah, outside of that, it's like a food cost. We'll do a little bit of food tourism, because this is an awesome mountain town. So we have a few real good food, local food hangouts to visit at least once throughout the week. And then I always offer it as an extension. I mean, people can come 2-3 days early, stay 2-3 days late. We had DJ who came out here, came out here, was third at World's Toughest Mudder, whatever, a month later, and then went back to the Northeast, figured out his life, came back in March, has been here ever since, won the World's Toughest Mudder 6 months after that. And like, he came out for a camp. So it's like, that's a perfect example of like, this is someone who's coming out for a camp. And then on the other end, we have a guy that Scott came out for a camp after years of trying to come out for a camp. And he's got 2 kids and he has a big boy job and he has like a normal real life. Like, he's just a guy who's trying to maintain fitness and fight the Reaper for as long as he possibly can. He's just a normal person. He's not someone who's a complete vagrant. And we have everywhere in between. And so it's great to see that you can have people that are aspiring world champions sleeping with people that are, sharing a bunk bed with the same people that are just here because, this is their summer camp and it was thousands of dollars cheaper than the next thing, and they get awesome mentorship in a world-class venue. And I would like to lean more and more and more into this as it goes. I got some grandiose Louis Simmons dreams for my life here of really making a program here and probably funding it with those camps of, I think people that work too damn much, I think they need what we have, and I think we need what they have. And I think we can make a very, very beautiful thing going on here to support a whole team. But until then, man, I just love having it. It's great to have the bustle and new bodies here to train with. And we do dinners, 2 runs offered every day, somewhere new, trail run, road run. Group cold exposure, group saunas, group core and hip work, and then group breakouts like the body work. And I put on these camps. There'll be another one probably late August. There'll be another one in the fall, and just throwing these together, but open invite for everybody. And then in between, and anyone can show up here. I know when I was on the Mark Bell Power Project, they said, how do people get a hold of you? I said, you just come to my house, 535 County Road 204. They're like, we've never had someone answer with an address before. I was like, yeah, no way, dude. So
yeah, you're the first here as well.
In between camps, people can just roll in, man. We'll find a spot for you. And, worst case, I'll charge you a couple $100 for the month and we can figure it out from there. As long as you're taking it seriously and want to fold into what we have going on here, then there's no hurdles there. So camps are just an extension of that dream, man. I would love to see a few listeners and yourself and some of your training buddies come on out. It doesn't get more accessible than just show up at my house and we'll host you and show you a good time. I mean, a world-class time here for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of the objections that a majority of people would often have. You definitely just shifted those out of the way.
What are you gonna say now?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man, if only. And I'm like, I'll pick you up from the airport. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, exactly. No, I'll tell your mom that you're just coming on down. It's all good. Yeah, that's funny. Super cool. May I ask what your vision is? What is it that you want to do where the camps are involved in? I guess, because originally I was going to ask I'll just ask that. I like that.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think this is my house, right? This is a 1,300 square foot trailer mobile home in Durango, Colorado. It's a 2-bed, 3-bath, nice backyard, beautiful alpine runoff stream in the backyard, 7,000 feet. The water's always 35 degrees and the weather's always perfect. I mean, I don't run AC all summer. It's 50 every night. It's 75, maybe 85 at the worst during the day. If it's too cold, you drive an hour south. If it's too hot, you drive an hour north. We're right where the desert meets the mountains. And so there's red rock, it's blue sky all the time. You can access snow damn near year round. You can access dry desert in the sand damn near year round. And so this venue is perfect, but it is a mountain town. It's expensive. And so that's hence the trailer, right? And it's taken a lot of creativity to get here. And now the like 3 to 5 year project that will be primarily funded with camps, I'm imagining, and consults. I mean, I do consults, 30 minutes, $100. You can tell I like to talk. I can talk as fast as you can write, bust out your notes. Don't waste your own time. You already paid for this. Let's fucking rage. Let's give you homework assignments for 8 weeks. And then as soon as you're ready to process more, hit me back up. We'll circle back on everything with the first 5 minutes, and then we'll rage for another 25, and we'll get you the most bang for your buck. But yeah, with my like personal take out of any of this, which as established is peanuts, the next step is land. The next step is an acre or two. And I pretty much have the neighborhood. I mean, within a 1 mile radius, I pretty much know exactly what I'm looking for. It's just a matter of like, rates are fucking insane right now. There's a race in Hawaii on August 8th. It's $15,000 for first place. It's 50 miles. It's gravel. It's hot. Again, like I won't even feel good about winning that. That'll be like, yeah, no shit, I won. Like there's no one in the world that can beat me if I have an even okay day on a course like that. So yeah, I would like to take that, put that right towards the land. And then that will allow me to do proper, like modular, quirky, container homes and yurts, and then really ball in nice shared space with with chickens and proper like mycorrhizal remediation of the land, and really dive into as sustainable and holistic. And it's not to save the planet. I think the planet's fine. It's like it really is, or the planet will figure it out one way or the other. It really is for our own connection with it. It's like I want you to be able to eat local stuff. I want you to be able to be bathing in local dirt and get that microbiome and kind of become the San Juans, whether you're here for a week or a month or a year, and to drink raw water from here and have chicken eggs from here and do all of that. That would mean such an outsized impact on my whatever spirit than the $80,000 or so it's going to cost me to do that. And so for the first time in my life, I've spent the last decade where I haven't been broke or rich. I just haven't needed money. I mean, truly, like that's not as profound as maybe it sounds rolling out that smooth, but it's like, it just is what it is. Whereas now I'm like, all right, I could really make some change here. Like I could really scale this up. I could support 5 to 7 athletes full time. We could have some vacation rentals on the side. We could do camps for like 10 to 12 to 15. We could host college teams, and not just do it for like, oh, cool, we're running and we're soaking in water because it's cliche. It's like we can do holotropic body work and have some crazy weirdness out here and really share this stuff. So that's the 3 to 5 year plan. But for the first time in my life, it's a really fun place to be, and that it's only financially limited, so that there's no time constraint to anything. I could do all that in 12 months if some great news happens. I mean, I'm slated to be on the Ben Greenfield podcast on August 26th, I think it is. And it's like, if I could sell 20,000 ebooks about how to periodize mushrooms, both psychedelic and functional and all of it, if I can tell you how I would periodize mushrooms to peak on a race day or a performance day, and I can get the right people to read that, I'm the world expert on that. I mean, there's nobody that could say they know more about that than I am. We're the pioneers here, and I'm as elite as it gets. So it's like, let's go. And who knows where it'll go from there. So that's the 3 to 5 year plan as I'm saying it, but exponential growth happens. If it happens in 12 months, I'm here for it.
Nice. I would definitely get that book, by the way.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
That's awesome, dude. Well, my friend, is there anything that you would like to share that I haven't asked about so far?
I don't think so, man. I think we got to plug the next camp. People know how to hunt me down, and I've had fun just riffing with a kindred spirit, man. It's always good when we can talk and we know someone's kind of like already smelling what we're shitting here. It's like good stuff, man. Got to find your people. That's my motivation. My motivation to be famous is kind of like my motivation to be rich. It's like I would love to have a ton of money just so I could give it all away. I don't know that anyone's made a ton of money that way, but I think if my only motivation to be like famous is so that I can talk to a bunch of people that kind of like get this already instead of feeling weird, dude, I think that'll work.
I agree with you. I agree with you. Like, when someone goes in with a mindset of abundance or a thought process of abundance or wanting to be a positive contribution, my kind of mission statement, or like how I compare anything I do in my reality, is the pursuit of self-betterment, the perpetual pursuit of self-betterment, and to be a positive contribution to the human race. And man, I think what you're going to do is provide a lot of positive contributions. And I think with that insight of abundance, I believe that there is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, this badass compound of eliteness. Oh man, I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, man, dude, good to hear.
Yeah, I freaking love it. Well, I got two questions for you that I like to end all my podcasts with.
Sounds
And
good.
they're a good time. So my friend, I'm gonna set the scene. Kind of chatted about it earlier, but we'll see how it goes. But setting the scene, it's the end of your days, right? You probably ran yourself to bed before kicking the bucket, and your loved ones are around, or the folks that you care for are around. What is the piece of advice, or what is the last thing that you want to, or was the last piece of wisdom that you want to share with those folks or share with people?
Hopefully it'll get better. I mean, I'm still very much learning, but
Sure.
I think right now it would be chase curiosity. I
Mhm.
think you have, to the extent that you are any kind of snowflake at all and that you have anything special to offer anyone, I think you already know what those steps are, and thinking about it just gets in the way. I think you know what you're here to do, and I think just offering that, there will be value to that no matter what it is. And so I think you might have to correct that a little bit and strip away all the stuff, all the modernity that clouds that. It's very easy. That's what I was saying. Like food, it's like you're hungry, you want to eat, you eat the steak, you eat the plant. You're satisfied. When there's Twinkies in every room, suddenly that system gets hijacked. So I think there's a little bit of cleansing that has to go on to make sure that you're pure. A little sattva, a little sattva, like purity in there. Make sure that there's some clarity to that. But I think chasing curiosity can't possibly do you wrong.
Dude, that's fantastic. Second question, the very best version of you, who you envision to be the highest version of you, maybe not literally, but like, visually, the person that you want to become.
Yeah.
That person sitting next to you right now and wants to give you a piece of advice for this season of your life, what would that advice be?
Hmm. When I go back and run trails that I haven't run in years, or like if I go visit a place where I used to live, it feels like a different person that used to live there. And there's a certain level of like, shame is a really strong word, but like my version of shame, which would be like very light shame for the average person. um, but I'm like, who the fuck was this person? Like that dude, he thought he knew anything at all. That's laughable. So I would imagine that me in 5 years or 10 years is gonna be is gonna think that I am so ridiculous right now, and I'm really happy about that. But that also means I don't know what the hell. If I was gonna say something, I'd say when in doubt, put the fuck out, because I have a hard time believing that in 10 years that's gonna change. And so where I am now, it's like if people want to read a book from you, you better start freaking writing, because it's like people are willing to give you their time. Or we were talking the movie premiere. I take that so seriously. It's if someone's willing to give me 90 minutes of their time, best believe there's going to be value given to those people in that 90 minutes, come hell or high water. I mean, come broken bones and bleeding skin, like we're going to make that shit work. And so I think that's probably the right advice for any season, is when in doubt, put out. So just create, rage.
Freaking love it, dude. That is so good. Uh, well, you already mentioned your address. Where else can people find you?
Yeah, man. I mean, my front porch at 9 a.m. for a cold plunge and then a sauna, that's pretty much the ideal place to find me. I don't like to leave home for all that long. I mean, I obviously go out and race and such, but people can find me on Instagram, just at Anthony Kunkel, and that's all phonetic standard spelling. And it's just a nice gingery mug shot with some bright lights where my eyebrows disappear, so you can't miss me on there. And yeah, I like to post a lot of quirky stuff on there. Put as much personality as I can. I think that's the that's either the benefit, or that's the detriment of my life, is that I am not carrying a title sponsor or anybody that's not willing to let me talk about sex and psychedelics and getting weird out there. So, or letting people show up at my house and stuff. That's not very, Adidas isn't exactly going to sponsor a vagrant like me. And so Patagonia, maybe if they're listening.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think find me in person. Make social media actually social if you're going to engage with me, because I see every DM, I see every request. I take the time. It's a lot of time because even at a few thousand followers, shit adds up. But I take that very seriously, and I try to respect everyone's time. So, you know, don't blast me with too many dick pics or anything. But outside of that, it's like I respond to every comment. I like to keep it as social as I can, so people can really find me and engage with me on social media. And then I keep a Patreon, as I already mentioned, and that's a really good platform for like some long-winded stuff. And I want to say that's just GA Kunkel, like Patreon / but it's a link in my Instagram bio as well. People can find me. I'm pretty easy to find.
Nice. I'll be sure to put everything in the description as well so that you'll have
Oh,
direct access.
yeah. Yeah, and actually that movie is up right now. A very small slap on the wrist paywall, $5 for your first month on Patreon, and that'll get you access to a link that I would ask everyone not to share for now, since we're still doing. We're making the rounds. We'll see who wants to host us, but film fests and that sort of thing. So we're trying to maintain a little bit of specialness to it. And God forbid, get my media guy who's done this entire 90-minute full length film on faith and $1,000 one time. So that's a project. I mean, there's a reason it's $2,000 a finished minute for most people, and we've managed to do this on nothing. But yeah, let's make sure that dude doesn't have to starve. So if anyone knows anybody, let's plug it. If anyone would like to host a screening of it, just drop me a DM. We'll figure it out. Throw me the $5 on my Patreon. You'll have the link. You can screen it at home, and then just share my Venmo info, or I don't know, show up here for a camp.
Nice. Well, folks, that is what I got for you for today's episode. And if you love today's episode, please do me a favor right now. Share it on your Instagram stories and tag me with my handle at DapperDudeKyle, along with at Anthony Kunkel. That is one of the ways that we grow. And until next time, my friends, be kind. And I hope your day treats you as good as you look.